Good morning, everybody. I've got some strange sunshine going on today. The camera's a little bit overexposed, but I'm sure it'll settle down in a bit. There it goes. Look. What are we doing? Well, what we've been trying to do is create a tab document user interface in a style of sort of like a productivity style app. In various different GUI frameworks to see whether they're suitable for creating productivity style apps. And we've been using Cushy recently. We've used a few other ones. We've used Floem, we've used Iced, we've used Visio, we've used Windows native GUI, and we've used a lot. Yeah, and it's not been fun. And they're all missing something, and they've all got various quirks and oddities. And yeah, we've been making a little spreadsheet on the way as we went. What spreadsheet am I talking about? I'm talking about this one. So these are one. Oh, and we used the MakerPad UI one as well. Yes. And there's a bunch of other ones that we've not used for various different reasons. I just want to quickly go over the GUI requirements. So if we switch back to this, GUI, where are we? Requirements. GUI requirements here, this. These are my requirements for GUI system. Doesn't suck, looks nice, has decent widget library, resizable windows, flexible layout, easy to use from Rust, permissive license, maintained, active user base, needs to be able to integrate other rendering things like 3D stuff, no JavaScript, TypeScript, and web technologies and stuff like that. Okay, so it's not a terrible list. It seems fairly sane, really. And we went through and let's search for GUI. Should have my list somewhere. Yeah, here we go. GUI library selections. And these are the ones we tested. And there's a bunch of ones that are untested. And yeah. Yeah. You can pause this and read this if you want. Or come back to it later. We have to update this one. Maybe. There is no state system, but we worked around it. However, it is experimental with a small community still. Missing some common widgets, like drop down. However, there are. So, yeah, where to start with this? Like, at some point, we're going to have to choose something so that we can continue writing our actual desktop application, right? And I didn't like the experience with Iced, but the overall experience I didn't like. But there were some aspects of it which were okay. Right? One, its testability and recreating state from tests seemed to be pretty decent because it follows the Elm architecture and you basically call update a bunch of times with messages, right? If you've got a simple application, then your messages just get bundled in your main app and you can see everything all at one time and it's fine. But when you've got a more complicated application, such as the one we're trying to build, you basically end up with messages going all over the place, like this, basically. Like this. Right? So the user clicks, the checkbox, an event gets created, and then that goes to the widget, and then it goes to the home tab view, and then you create a message from it. That then gets wrapped by the tab kind, and that then gets wrapped by the tabs, and that gets wrapped by the apps. Then it goes to the runtime, then it comes out of the runtime in the update method, and then you match on the outer message, and then you delegate to the tabs view, and then you peel a layer off, and then you delegate that to the tab kind, and you peel a layer off, and then eventually the tab that needs the message gets to process the message, and then it creates an action, and then you can either decide to wrap all the actions up as you go back or not. So you can do this in one of two ways, but it still is complicated. Yeah, it's complicated, and there's a lot of moving parts, but it is sort of understandable, and you can create like layers of an application that are isolated from each other and so on, and reusable components with it, right? Right. So yeah, iced, right? Iced, the iced API is not very discoverable, but it turns out neither is the Cushy one. It's not discoverable in a different way. How is it not discoverable? Okay, well, let me show you. Right, so modern IDEs. Where are we? Cushy. Modern IDEs. Just as an example, we're creating a window. We want to see what we can do with it, right? So one of the ways that you can see what you can do with it is by going, and when I say it, I mean an instance of an align type, right? It has got a bunch of methods on it, and then you can look at the methods, and then you can look at the signatures, right? And this tells you what you can do with it, right? There's other ways that you can do stuff within a line. For instance, you can pass it to something else, right? So then you need to go, okay, well, what things take an align, right? And then, oh well, haha. So we've got an align, and then how do you find that out, right? How do you find that out? Let's try and use the IDE, because yeah, right. What things can be given an align as a parameter, right? Or what traits does align implement, right? So align implements, I don't know, asmut, for instance, right? And therefore anything that takes an asmut widget reference can be given an align, right? So then it's like, how do you find out what can take an asmut widget reference? And then you're like, well, what if there's a conversion that takes like an into, or, the from trait, for instance, from, you could go implement from asmut for, and then some other kind, right? So you have a big problem when you want to find out what you can do with the types. And what you end up finding in larger frameworks, such as this one. I mean, we'll look at, say, where's the value file? Value. Value.rs. This one, for instance, right? You've got lots of implementations for dynamics, right? For instance, you've got clones, drops, from, strings. Yeah, you've got lots. So it's not clear, it's not very easy to work out what you can do with all the various different objects that you've got. And this is a common thing with larger code bases and Rust libraries and so on, as you delve into them. And it's the same with a standard library as well. There's just lots of implementations of this for that. So it's often hard to know what you can do with a given type. So yeah, so that's what I mean by about not very discoverable. But I don't know whether that's specific to Cushy. In fact, it's not specific to Cushy, right? Because Iced had the same problem as well. So let me give you an example. So here we've got width, right? And it says it takes an into dimension range. You're like, okay. So then I've here I've got a pixel range. But if you've never used this framework before, right, and you see a width method, and I'm just going to delete these, you know, to pretend this situation exists, then you're like, okay, so it takes something that implements into dimension range plus sized. And you're like, what can go there? Right, and say there's no examples for this, which is often the case with a lot of these frameworks. Then how do you find that out? So into dimension range. So what do we search for into dimension range? Right. And this is what we find. Because this is what it said it wanted, right? So we've got... That's, you know, it takes one of those, but what gives us a dimension range? Okay, so maybe we need to search for dimension range. And then how do we create dimension ranges? Where does dimension range live? Let's have a look at that. Right, and then what traits are implemented for dimension range? From range of something. Like, dimension range can be created using what? We've got a default and it's unbounded. And then we've got some methods which, I don't know, anything that gives us a dimension range is what we're interested in. Right, and you start to see the problem, right? Right, so this one gives us a dimension range. This one gives us a dimension range. So then you're like, okay, so and then you're just like, what? And you're already lost. You're like, what? So yeah. It's not very easy to follow. We've got range full, we've got range inclusive of a given type. So, yeah. I mean, I don't find it very easy to follow. Maybe you do. Maybe you're a more experienced Rust developer than me. You know, I'm still a noob. I've been doing this 3 years now, but I'm still a noob. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, well, what can I pass into this T so I need a range, right, that can be converted into a dimension. So then I need to find something that implements into dimension. So, is that right? So how does it get the pixels into a range where Like, how does it go from the pixels that we had in our little in this bit of code here that, you know, before I deleted it? How does it go from a pixel range, an unbounded pixel range, into a dimension range that can be passed here? Like, if I run it through the debugger, we'll find out. But you kind of want to know, you can't run it through the debugger to find out what to type. So that's, you know, that's no good. Yeah. So I've got a range of pixels. Like, I mean, let's just extract this to a type. You've got a range from. So this width thing wanted a in something to create a dimension range from, and there was a range, and we said it was the type was a range from. And we've got this one, right? So it uses this. Okay, so this wants a range from of type T, which is what we've got here. Right. So then what does it do? It goes, okay, take the start from the range and call into on it and put the result of this in bound included. So bound included takes the type T. And then, and you know, it's all well and good, you know, I'm sure you can write lots of code with it, but trying to understand the framework and what types you can use is non-trivial. It's non-trivial. So because of that, you have to have good examples so that you can get started with all this stuff. Yeah, that's my thought on that. Yeah, I mean, you can tell me in the comments if you disagree with my thoughts there, but it's not easy to work out what you can specify in here. You know, a range of any of the above, but why and how? So yeah, discoverability is curious. Other things about Cushy that I, you know, compared to Iced, the fluent nature. Fluent versus messages. So, you know, we were looking at the Iced thing just a moment ago, you know, the little diagram, right? So this is the Elm architecture. Right, and there's so there's the fluent and the reactive things. I'm talking cross purposes, my bad. The reactive nature of it, sorry, not the fluent nature. So the way that you interact with the widgets and get the widgets to do stuff, instead of creating messages like, you know, an on closed in ICE has something which emits a particular kind of message, right? And that message then gets received by the runtime and then gets passed to something else, right? But in Cushy, you have closures. And if you've got a closure that then needs another callback to do something, then you end up with this horrible situation of requiring nested clones. For instance, here we're creating the new tab, which is a form, right? And on the form, it's got a button, which is ... which allows you to pick a directory. And this has a handler, which takes a callback. And therefore, you need to clone the directory because that's what you need to interact with. And then this clone gets moved into the actual callback closure, which is this one, right? And then inside that, you have to pass the directory into the closure which is activated, which is called when you finally pick a file, so that you can update the directory in the object. Which object? The tab object. This one. Right. So then, but before you can do that, you have to clone it again. Because you cloned it here, it gets passed into this, and then you have to clone it here so that it can be passed and updated in here. And it's not pretty. And if you need to interact with a few things, it gets very silly indeed. So here's another example of it. So I've got an open button, and I have to clone a few things from the application state, and then use another file picker, and then I have to clone those same things again, so that we can eventually call open document with those things. So yeah, I don't like that. Other things with reactive frameworks. Deadlocks. Okay, so we've had instances of this so far. So let me give you an example of where this fails. Yeah, this one. Hold on. Wait a second. I lost the thing. Tab bar. I just had it a moment ago. Let's pick the directory. Yeah, here we go. That one. Okay, I don't know why the ID didn't switch to that. Something happened there. So if I don't do this and then run this, you'll see an example of a deadlock. And panic. Why? Why? Because deadlock. Deadlock error. Right? Where so then it's like, okay, if you've got nothing to lock, then you don't get deadlock errors, which is the case with iced. Right? Tabs is a dynamic guard on self tabs, and it gets locked here. Right? And the deadlock error doesn't occur in this bit of code. It occurs somewhere else. This is where it occurs. This is where it occurs. And we are in a completely different method, make widget. So to fix deadlock errors, you have to go back up the call stack and work out who's got the thing that's locked. So who else called lock on it, basically? Who's got a guard that's outstanding that's preventing it from being locked again? So to do that, you have to walk back up through the call stack. And you only find this out at runtime. At runtime. Which isn't good. Because if it only happens at runtime, then that means you probably need a test to make sure your system is working. Right? Because otherwise, if I go back to where we were just looking, right? If I didn't have this, how would I know it's broken before I ship it? And if you've got nothing to lock, then that's one less place where it can fail. Which is an interesting thought, I suppose, for all this. Yeah. So anytime you introduce mutexes or things that you can log, you have this problem. And ideally you need some tests for it. So then you're like, okay, well, how do I write a test for this? No. How do you write a test for it? What can you possibly write as a test for this? How could you write a test for this? How? So the test occurred when the application started up. As it was displaying the user interface, look, it didn't even display the user interface. It just boom, dead. Right. Yeah. So yeah. I've got no idea. I've got no concrete thoughts on how I would go about writing a test for this failure. No concrete thoughts about that. Some investigation is required. With Iced, on the other hand, and weirdly as well, I don't know why this is happening, but the application hasn't actually stopped. There's a panic, but there's still some thread that's running because I have to press this button up here to kill it. So something weird is going on there as well. So, and that's a problem for even if you did manage to write a test for it, because then your CI server would still be running the thread and you wouldn't even know it's crashed or whatever, and then you'd get timeout errors, and that's no way to have tests. So you probably need to fix that first, so that if it did panic, then the application quits completely. I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing, because maybe you're in a web browser, for instance, and your tab has got a problem with it, but you don't want the entire app to crash. You just want to close the tab, perhaps, recover from it somehow. I don't know. So yeah. Other things about Iced versus Cushy, because these are the two leading contenders at the moment. Styling. Personally, I hate the styling of both of them. I think they look like toffee, and that's putting it politely. Toffee usually has the same colour as something else. It's brown. There's a hint. Yeah, I don't like the look of it. Like, let's just run it. I mean, we're just going to look at it. You know. It's experimental, but it doesn't look pretty. I don't know. I'm really not sold on the looks. Like, purple. How about using the native system's accent colour, perhaps? Which you configure, here, accent colour. Or maybe it is using the accent colour. Okay, I'll take it back. I don't know what. Do you know why? It's because I never see this accent colour, so I didn't even know it was there. That's funny. Let's see if it actually uses the accent colour. Let's make it green just to see. This one. Maybe a lighter one. Okay. Maybe it does use it. Hold on. No, it's still using purple. I'm not imagining it. The accent color is still purple. Yeah. Okay. I was right. I thought I was right because I've used this on another box and that doesn't, and that was purple as well. And I think the accent color on there wasn't set to purple. Yeah. I don't know. So yeah. Quite why it was purple, I don't know. I quite like the magenta. Plum, rose. Let's go with rose. Yeah. So yeah, styling. I'm not sold on the styling of it. Let's run the iced one, just for comparison. We'll put them side by side. Here's the iced one. This is what it does by default. I mean, well, it doesn't do that by default because this is default. This has not really been styled up here. And we'll go new. And there was no grid. At least over here there was a grid. I don't know. I mean, this is what modern UI styles look like, apparently, the settings program. Or let's bring up Notepad, for instance, perhaps. And I don't know. Let's just bring up a rant. You see, Microsoft. Look, we got Win32 API mixed with not Win32 API. Great, thanks Microsoft for that. You know, way to build a consistent application. Just madness, madness. Oh, interesting that you can't bring up the replace dialog until you've typed some text. Yeah, you know, and this is what things look like. It's got little underlined bits on the text inputs. Yeah. And this is apparently how things work these days. I wasn't expecting to see a settings dialog when I pressed that. Oh my god. What are they doing with these user interfaces these days? I mean, I've got back now on the settings, so it's replaced the entire content of the user interface with... Oh, modern user interfaces are just a nightmare. Like, what? Really? Is that actually how it was supposed to work? Styling. Yeah, I mean, does it do it in here as well, like this? Image properties? No. See, here we've got a dialogue. So, you know, are these things comparable to this? Because, you know, this is what users want, I suppose. Do they want it? I'm a user, I don't want it. I don't know. Just, yeah. Meh. Like the iced author said, you shouldn't care that your GUIs look different. Every application has a different user interface, and even within the same application, it's got different user interfaces. I mean, let's just look at the hideous Microsoft Word. We'll just look at this. Right, this is so terrible. I don't even know where to begin. Right, so you look at the top of this, and it's got File, Home, Insert, Drawers. So these ones, what do? They change these. So what do you think, after doing that, is going to happen when I press the File menu? boom, something completely and utterly different. And this one's got like a back button here, whereas Notepad had it up here somewhere. And it's, and then, not only that, but if you were trying to save this file, you get some hideous dialogue thing here, which is just shocking. And then if you want the native dialogue, you have to do browse to do it. It's just madness. It's madness. And then not only that, you've got like the Windows 3.1 style user interfacey thing as well. It's just an abomination of user interfaces. Microsoft Word is. It's an abomination. It makes me so sad. And then native dialogues, instead of having the little pop-up thing with the icon in it, now you've got like a wordy thing. Don't save. So, styling. Do we care about styling? I mean, I don't know. Do we just make it look like rubbish and hope that people won't care? Or do we just accept the default styling for everything? No, because it looks like toffee. And then we've got these horrible rounded buttons and they just... Ugh. I don't know. I'm not sold on it. I'm not sold on the styling of either of them. So if you're not sold on the styling of either of them, then you have to style it. And is it fun to style? No. It's a pain in the ass to style either of these two things. So for instance, let's go to the toolbar. Right, which one are we looking at here? Cushy. Let's go to the toolbar. So, make the toolbar. So say you don't like something about it, like the button padding of a toolbar, for instance. Feel free to make corrections in the comments if this is wrong and there's some stuff that I don't know about, which is entirely possible because I'm still a noob with this. But if I want to apply the same padding to every button, instead of putting the padding on a container and then having the container inherit a specific style from the container, as far as I know, and I might be wrong, you have to go to each button and add the same styling to it. And it might be that there is a with styles thing where you can bundle all these styles together, but it's a bit funky. There is this with styles thing which I've not used before. But I certainly don't want to be repeating the same the same set of things, like the colours and all this stuff for every single button. That would just be hideous. I just want to set it up on the toolbar so that every time there's a button that's in the toolbar, it gets a set of styles, which is sort of what you do with CSS, I suppose. And as far as I'm aware, there's no hot reloading because it's code. And there's no style sheet. And I believe that this is the same with iced as well. So in here, let's go back to the toolbar. Here was the... Where do I create the buttons? Oh dear, I don't create the buttons in there yet. I suppose I should probably move some of that code in there. Somewhere I create a toolbar. Do we remember where it was? It's in like a view message or something, right? Tab document UI view. Oh, this is where it creates a toolbar. I need to extract this to a method. Sure. That code should be living in here, right? So yeah. So I don't know if we want to style the button. Oh yeah, we had this style thing. And who remembers how to make this work? Well, we've got a theme that we can access, but we need to return something in here that is a style. But then you have this same problem. It's like, well, you know, how do I create these styles? Style. And then these are the only things you've got. You've got background, text, color, border, and shadow. Surely there's more to styling than that. Margins, padding, that kind of thing. I don't know. You know, it's... It's not fun, you know, and then there's various methods which return styles. Yeah, and that's how it's done in Iced, and I don't like it. So, regardless of which GUI framework you use, whether it's Iced or Cushy, styling is going to be painful. Styling is also more painful because every time you make a change, you have to run the app, go, oh, it's not right. And sometimes you have to do a sequence of steps before you can get to the point where you need to make the styling change, right? So for instance, in this application, if I want to style the new form, I would have to go into the new thing, and there's a sequence of steps that you need to do, and I don't have any images yet, so I need to create one, and these are the steps that you need to do every single time you wanted to style something that was on the text. I want to style this, say, right, and I'd have to go through every single one of those steps every single time that I wanted to make a change to this little sidebar thing over here. So the lack of hot reloading and ability to make runtime changes to the styling is painful. It's very tedious. That's the word for it. Tedious. If you had, say, a web browser, not that one, hold on, let me get another one. If you had a web browser and, you know, just as an example, where is it? I want to edit, I don't know, let's go input. Who remembers their HTML? God, it's been a while. Why is it not? Does it? Food. Oh, there we go. Right. So if I want to change this, the style on this, I can do it while the program is running, right? So I can inspect it, and I can futz around with it, and I can create styles. Right. I don't have to reload the application. I don't have to run through a whole sequence of steps in order to make the changes to it. That's my point anyway. So there's different ways of doing these things, and it's good to be aware of the different ways that there are of doing things. Way back when you know, things like Visual Basic was a thing, you used to create your GUIs in an application. Maybe there's an example here. Yeah. So you have a designer and you plop down some things and then you can futz around with it, right? And this is how you used to create it. And I think it's the same kind of thing with like Java Swing and there's other GUI toolkits. I think Qt's got the Qt designer and so on like this. And there are some Rust frameworks that want this, but they don't really exist and work yet. So you either do it all in code and have to suffer the pain of going back through all the states before you make a change, and you have to recompile as well. Which is time consuming. So it's not only tedious, it's time consuming and tedious to make style changes. MakePad wants to support that, but the MakePad code base, it's not my favourite. And I think the PAX one as well, if you remember the PAX GUI Rust thing, was it this? PAX dev, this? Yeah, these people, they want to create building apps or websites. Oh, they've got AI on here now. Oh, everyone's putting AI on it now. Oh dear. Yeah. So there's that. That's you know. But we had a quick look at that a while back ago. PAX. Yeah. Web style apps is what we thought about that. And it's very sort of early days for that. So it's no good today. And we're trying to create an application today. Yeah, Vizier has hot reloading of style sheets, but it doesn't use either the Elm architecture for, you know, the update view cycle. It doesn't do that. It doesn't use the reactive nature of other frameworks like Freya, Deoxys, Floem, if I recall, did that, and Cushy. It uses something else entirely, which is its lens system, which I wasn't entirely sold on, but given my experience with other recent GUI frameworks, I might go back and reevaluate my position on that. Because maybe given all the other things in all the other frameworks that I don't like, perhaps we can work with it. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. So it's all doom and gloom, really. It's all doom and gloom when it comes to like Rust frameworks, Rust GUI frameworks right now. Not to mention the amount of dependencies that it'll take, which was it's silly amounts for most of them. Most of them are like 300. Freya had 500, nearly 500 dependencies, same as ZNG. Just, oh, dearie me. It's too many. It's too many dependencies. So yeah, given those thoughts, I honestly don't know whether it's worth continuing with the Cushy experimentation. Do we care? Do we care? I mean, I sort of care, but is there enough about it that I like versus don't like? What do we do? Should we go back and look at Visio again? I don't feel like I want to do that today. I might do that on Monday, at the start of a new week, perhaps. What do we do? Decision paralysis, that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. What I do want to do, though, I'm going to completely ignore the language stuff because the author of Cushy has said, in a response to the issue that I opened regarding localization, that he does want it to work and he does want it to be dynamic. So I'm not worried about that. When he does it on, mind you, is something to be slightly concerned about because there's not many people working on Visio. On the other hand, there's quite a few people working on Iced. Right, and often this is the way with these things, project maintenance wise, is that when there's only a couple of people in the project that know everything about it, and they're busy writing improvements to it and handling all this stuff, what happens is your pull requests get a little bit stagnant. I don't know, given that, I don't know, 1,145 closed pull requests though. But as a maintainer of a project, you do have to be very wary about the amount of outstanding pull requests versus adding new features or doing your own thing. You have to have some trust in some of the other people that you're working with. Whereas with Cushy, currently there's not many people doing anything. I mean, I did one tiny commit, so you can't really count me in that. So essentially there's only 6. I don't know what the other people have been doing. And you can pretty much guarantee that most of them don't understand it anywhere near as much as the guy that wrote it. And that's the same with most frameworks, to be honest. There's only like 1 or 2 guys that know it inside out. 36 closed. Yeah. So yeah, something to be wary of. Outstanding pull requests. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, what do I want to do? He said he's going to do language stuff, so we're not going to do this. One of the things we need to do is the state where the list of open documents needs to be saved when the application closes. So we're going to jump into doing that and writing some code. And the eagle-eyed among you might have spotted this to do when I first started the stream. So, yeah. In the iced example, we had this somewhere. This. And this was called by on close requested, which was called by the close requested message, which was sent by the Windows subscription when the event is close requested. Right, so that's how it worked in Iced. And what it did was it had a mutable self, and it could get the documents, iterate over it, and then update it, and then collect them into a vector of path buffs, and then lock the config, which was an arc mutex, and set the document paths on it, and that's how it worked. Right. So let's see what it ends up looking like in this. So here, there's no self. We're currently in main. So we're just going to do a method. Update open documents, and it's going to have to store it in the config. And the config is a dynamic which has been cloned, and then we've got this. And in order to update the config, we're going to need the documents, which we don't have here yet. And the magic of this ID is quite interesting. I didn't have to type any of that. Curious, no? So yeah, so we've got documents and we've got config and we can update it. So let's create a method, a function, which does that. Config documents. And then probably we can paste in this, because much of the stuff that we're doing is identical. Oh, did I not copy it? Let's try that again. There we go. So we iterate over the documents, but we can't iterate over it. We've got to lock it first. Then we can iterate over it, and then we can go, well, if we've got a document key, do we have a key? Yeah, we do have a key. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's all the same. All this is the same, basically, and this is the path property on the document, and we've collected it. Great. Now we can update the config. So I suppose we go config.log. And then is this. And then we did it. Right? No. Yeah, we passed it to it, so I suppose we need a reference to a dynamic and a change these to references. Otherwise it's going to move them there. There we go. Right, does it work? It might. So if I close this and then close the app and then run it, we expect to see only 2 documents, but we've still got 3 documents, so something funky didn't work. Okay, fine. So, lock, save config. Does it? Yeah, it says saving config, so we know we get in here. I bet I know what's going on. When we close the tab, we're not removing the document from the list of documents. That's what's going on. Pretty sure. Let's just go open documents like this. Pretty sure that's what's going on. Open documents, and it's still got 3 things in it. So we're not removing the document from the list of documents when we close a tab. So I suppose we have to fix that. But this bit in itself is probably okay. Update the list of open documents in the config when closing the app. Sure. That's what we did. Thus. Okay. And now we've got to fix a bug. Fine. So I suppose a tab bar? I mean, what business has the tab bar got of updating the application's list of documents? Probably no business whatsoever. But let's just see, because the close tab functionality is in here, and also the close all is in here as well. So do these methods need to take a closure which is given to them by the main application? Probably. So close tab is called by, so the problem here is that add tab gives you, you see, meh. You can see where this is going, can't you? So when you add a tab, you need to say, you need to pass something else over here, maybe. I suppose we do have a trait for this, into which we could perhaps go on close. And then what would it do though? Let's look at where we add tabs. So this is where we add a document tab, right? And we've got documents here, a dynamic. So let's just say we go on close and then we go let documents is documents.clone because it's the dynamic, right? And then let's say we go move and then go, I guess here we're going to have the what? What is our onClose method able to give us? So that we can find the document in the list of documents. Because we need to go documents.lock.remove with the document key, right? I guess we do have this document key here. So we could clone it here. Perhaps that would work. And then, you know, maybe you get the tab itself here. We don't currently need it. Let's see if we can make this work. Okay. Right, now how's it likely to work? So if I did this, you know, this is what we've got. Which I don't really think belongs in here. Let's just delete it from here. Let's go to the tab trait. And then we what? We've got a function. It need to. Did it need to be given anything? Not sure. Let's try compiling it. And then, how is this likely to work? Like, do we want to repeat all that code in every single tab? The implementation of that? No. Does it just set on close handler with the function? Probably. And then we can have a default implementation of it. But we can't, because we don't really know what self is, because there's it's a trait and there's no access to any of the things. So let's go back to the document tab and just see what it looks like, just for fun, you know. I mean, does it? Do we just call F? But not really, because that's just going to call that now, which isn't what we want. We need to save the handler somewhere. Self.on close handler is F. And there might not be one. This isn't looking pretty, is it? It's not mutable, so I suppose this needs to be mutable. And thus, this needs to be mutable, which is fine. Oops. I've got that in the wrong place. What am I typing here? My brain. Yeah, no. Sure. And then what is... And then how do we add a type to this? Well, currently it's just FN. But... what do we have to do? Do we have to box it? Probably. Oops. I don't know, something like that, right? And now we need to use this onClose handler when the window is actually closed. So where the window is actually where the tab is actually closed. It does all this stuff, which is fine, but we need to get the tab itself. We don't have that tab currently, so I suppose we can go self.tabs get with the tab key. We've got to lock it first. Then we get it. Then we go. But we don't. The tab kind. Like what are we supposed to call here on this? We can't call on close because that would just be setting the on close handler. We need to get the on close handler and then call it, right? Just don't like this. It's something that just feels very, very, very wrong about what I'm doing right now. Well, we have to unwrap it first. Oh yeah. And this is going to complain about. Is that right? Oh, we need another bracket. There we go. So we've got the tab kind. So when we can interact with the tab, and we can call on close on it. But that's not what we want to do. That's setting the handler. So we want to do, I don't know, get on close handler, and then call it. Right? So then our tab kind clearly needs to have this method on it as well, doesn't it? And then do we have to repeat that for every single one? Is that really what we have? Oh, this gives, yeah, it gives an optional one. Because there might not be one. I didn't think that today's this particular task would be quite as hideous as it is. Implementing the close button on tabs and all the rest of it. It's just, And then we're gonna have to deal with the other one as well, right? And this isn't in, yeah. And what are we doing here? Close. On close handler needs to be an optional one of these. And then we need to implement exactly the same bit of code for all the other ones, which I'm going to just copy and paste for now, just to see if it works. Right, but at some point we're clearly going to need to come back to this and fix this because this is madness. Oh, and here we're supposed to be. Oh no, this is bad. No. Here we have to delegate. There we have to delegate. This one, however, needs this, which is supposed to be here. See, repeating this everywhere just seems very, very wrong to me. And this also seems very, very, very wrong. Can have default, it's fine. It just seems very, very wrong doing this. And then the next tab we've got is the new tab, which is going to need the same stuff. Oops. Just all seems very, very wrong. Right. So, oh dear, now, oh dear. Where's it moaning about? On close handler. We can't clone a boxed in fun. Just so you can't store the on-close handlers in the tabs. You've got to store them somewhere. Okay. Let's just delete that because it's rubbish. Do we care about any of this code? I kind of care about this bit. That's what I wanted to do. I don't think the tabs should have it. I think this is where the problem is coming from. Okay, let's just revert some of these things because this is rubbish. It's never going to work. Not in 1,000 years. I don't like the repetition anyway. I think the on-close handlers need to be defined on the tab bar, and the tab bar needs to maintain the list of on-close handlers. I think that's what you need to do. So where I was doing, okay, we'll keep that. Yeah, okay, so where we were doing this, no. I think we have to do it here. Let's say, just for shits and giggles, we're going to do this. Sure. Right. See, if you had a Fluent API, you could have something which you could then do like on close here. Right, but at the moment when we create a tab, it gives us a tab key back. So it's sort of like you want a tab handle which you can then do stuff with, which perhaps has a reference to itself. But we're not going to do that yet. So there's mixing all these different interface API sort of programming interfaces. It's kind of weird. Yeah. Let's just pass it here for now. Come on. Let's do it. So, right. So add tab now has this on close, which we don't do anything with. Let's just see whether this compiles as it is. Yeah, we don't have this. So let's fix this and write what we want to have. Let's go. Right, tabs is a slot map of stuff. So for each tab, we can have a fun whatever. I think that's what we want here. Just go with it. I know you're looking at it and going, oh my god, what is he doing? Don't worry, I'm having the same thoughts as well. When we stand back and take a look at it and rework it out, that's when you fix it up. We've got to get it working first. So now we've got an on close, right? But do we pass some here? I suppose we have to. Is that right? Do. And this is moaning because this is, I suppose we have to map this. Maybe. And then what is this? Is this a... Should it be like this? Can it be like this? Can you do that? Should this be generic? Do I want to create the bot? No, you see, it just all seems wrong. What's the problem? The size for it can't be... No, yeah, we know it can't be done. Do you always have to specify it? Let's just make it so there's always a handler, right? And then I can not have to deal with this option thing first. Let's do that. And then let's take this off here a second and then see what type it thinks. Yeah, it still wants that. And then can we put that in a box now? Do we? No, we don't need to map it anymore because it's an option. And then we've got a box fun. Let's see where we get with that. That's not right. So here we need something else, which is going to be what? We said box of type done fun. And we're going to need this same thing in a few places, probably. We're going to have to deal with that in a minute. So we don't care about this. We just want to call on close here. Let's fix up these ones first. See what we get now. We don't care about the tab currently. We could use it at some point in the future. Then we've got these two issues. So blah 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 cannot be sent between threads safely. So is this the largest error message you've ever seen in your life? Am I expected to read any of this? I mean, is it because we need something like, I don't know, where f is this? You still get that. Then why is it moaning about the on click here? Does it also need to have send plus on the function that's passed in? Why doesn't it think? Can you add where clauses to structs? I can't remember. It's a static plus send plus fun whatever. A box of type F. Really? Do I care about the? Do I care about this? Can I not just put this in here? I don't really want to add another type parameter. Is that right, like this? Oh, well, yeah, we need to fix this. And then do we get the same problem? No, this is good. Add tab. Add new tab. Right, so there's no callback on that one. That sort of makes sense. And this one, nothing to do. Compiles. Does it work? No, because we haven't added the code yet to delegate the document tab to... no, we deleted that bit of code. Well, maybe it does work then. Close, open. It worked. It did actually work, but we're not finished yet. Remove the document from when closing a tab using the X button. Remove the document from the list of documents. Right, but we've got a problem because it's clear from this message that we're only updating the list of documents in certain situations. The other situation that we have still to deal with is the close all situation. So we've got this. So where we clear the tabs out, we have to call the onClose method for each tab, right? So I suppose kind of really what we want to do is drain on this. Self.tabs.lock.drain. Do we have a drain? We do have a drain. But what does drain take? It gives you something, and then what you're supposed to iterate over the drain? Yes. Key. I think it's this. And then we don't need to do this clear thing instead. We can go on close. Perhaps. And it's entirely possible that what we should be doing up here is adding a type for this. Because it started out with just one thing in it, and then it's just gone mad. And this tab state probably isn't the tab state. This is probably like tab button. Nah, I don't know about that. Tab visibility. I don't know, but it's not really tab state because I think this is the tab state. Yeah, unused variable key. Yes, we don't care about the key here. And then here, trait object 3. What? In tuple element 3 that must be used. Why does it say this? Oh, yeah, but we've already called the closure, so... How do we make it shut this warning up? Because we don't care. We've used it already. Because what you get back from this is all this stuff, and the last thing here is a closure. We don't actually care about it. We've already used the closure at the top. We did it first. So fine. Does it work now? So if we close all the documents and then start the app up, we should just have the home tab, right? Which did indeed work. Fixed it. We fixed it. Yeah. Call the tab on, close, call each tabs on close handler when closing all tabs. Right. And then finally, I think we can go back to our little readme. Oh. And put an X here. We did it. Yeah, we did it. So this, I suppose, we can amend that commit and put it in there. Because it's done. All right, let's push these changes up. Can we do it from here? No. Origin? No. Thank you. Did it work? It worked. Normally I push in the command line. Oh, I haven't done that yet either. Nah. I suppose we can do this, and then it won't be complaining quite so much. Hydra. Fine. Fine. So, yeah, I wanted to do that today just to see what it looked like because I knew it was going to be painful. I didn't quite know it was going to be that painful. But it's interesting how, like, a little requirement like this sprawls out into this crazy amount of code and oddness that you have to do, such as updating the tab bar to provide on-close handler support. Who knew it was going to be that complicated? Who knew? Was it as complicated in Iced Let's look at this. I'm kind of curious. So to make it work in iced, right, we had to do some weird stuff. Firstly, we had to create a subscription on the window. No, that's a different thing. That's for just updating the config. Removing the documents from the list of open documents. Where did that happen in iced? It was when you get a tab bar message or something. This is where we did it. So our tab bar creates a message. Let's look at the tab bar for a moment. So yeah. It was non-trivial in this as well. Because this had to get the list of tabs that were closed and then map that into tasks. Each task had to give a particular message. And in order to do that, it did this. And then there may be some things that it needed to do, but in this particular case there wasn't. It just did it here. Yeah. But what's interesting about the iced stuff is that there's none of this locking this and cloning that and so on. It's just dealing with messages. Now, I did have a think about this. I had a thought yesterday when I was working with a Cushy code base, right? In that potentially you could introduce a messaging system into it. Now, whether this should do that or not is another matter entirely. But imagine, right, just imagine that if in your main app state you had a message, let's say message queue. Because when you're processing one message, you might want to do more than one of the tasks. Message. Maybe it should just be message. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Imagine you had this. Just imagine you had that. Then you've basically got the Elm architecture inside Cushy. There's a thought for you. It's not quite as simple as that. Obviously, you would need to do something like... Let's explore this for a minute just to see where it leads us, because I'm kind of curious. So let's just say that when I close a window, I want to create a message that is handled by my main app, which then delegates it to something in the same way that we did in Iced. Right? Let's just humour me here. So we're going to go enum message. And we're going to say tab closed. And we'll give it the tab key. That's the only message I want to send. But we probably need a default. Let's go impl default for message. And it's going to do this. And it's going to go that. There we go. So I guess now down here we can go, I don't know. Oh no, we don't need to do that. No. Why on earth did it? No, don't do that. Silly ID. Message colon message. Oh, it's dynamic default. That's what I want. My ID is trying to be too helpful there, but I just want a default message. Where'd that come from? So we've got this. Let's just extract this for a minute to something called message, just for a moment. Right. And it's worked out what it is. Let's just say, let's give it the type. Because something's got to process the messages, right? So we could go dot for each, right? And then what would we do here? Because this is the for each function and you do it, right? And this needs a function that doesn't return anything. Let's say to do here for now. What's it complaining about? What's the problem? Why am I going mad here? What's the problem? For each. Let me just press compile on this and see what happens. Found callback handle. Oh, yeah. Right. Unused callback handle, that must be used. Yeah, and then I guess we go let call, okay, message. Well, I suppose we can just go dot persist, right? So that way, if we pass this message thing into the tab bar could update the message and set a message on it, and then this callback would be run every time the message changes. So then I suppose you can go match message, right? Right, and this is basically where we are here, right? in the ICE example. We've got an update method. Right? So let's go do we go app state.update? App.update? I don't know. Let's create an update method just for fun. Update. So it's got the same signature as it does in ICE. Thus. You see where this is going? You can mix the two styles of programming together. It's probably more complicated than this. But sure, you know, tab closed. And we've got a tab key. You know what we wanted? We had a tab message. Let's just go a little bit further with this. Let's go enum tab message tab closed tab key, right? So in the main app, we want to delegate. So tab message, tab message. This needs to be public so it can be used. There, we've got it. Right. Let's go back to our update method. Tab message. And then we've got our message. So now we can delegate this in the same way that we did in the iced example to a function which then calls the update method on tabs. On the tab bar, right? Let's see where this leads us. I don't know whether this is a good idea, but I'm curious to find out which sucks more or less. Is this a way to introduce testability into the system? This is what I'm wondering. And then essentially get the best of both worlds. Like, the nice thing about ICE was the Elm architecture. The rest of it I wasn't entirely sold on. The nice thing about Cushy is that it's got I don't know, I'd say better set of widgets. It's got some widgets. There seems to be more focus on including a decent amount of widgets in the framework. And there's also the future possibility of internationalization, which I want in the system as a first-class entity. And it's also got better form validation, and you can't argue against this. And it's got keyboard support, and you can't argue against that either. So if we say that we don't like the reactiveness of Cushy, and we like the Elm architecture of ICE, can we mix the two? And what does it look like if we do? Is this a bad idea? Very interesting, this idea is. Like, how would my tab bar change if let's look at the tab bar for a moment. How would my tab bar change if all of these weren't dynamics? And all the tab bar had was a message that it could update. So the only thing it had was a dynamic message, and the rest of it was mutable state. What would it look like? There's a thought, that is, isn't it? So we want to delegate to the tab bar. Okay, so, clearly we're going to need the tab bar. Well, probably we're not going to need the tab bar. Probably what we're going to need is a reference to the application state. So yeah. I mean, that's the same as getting a mutable self in iced, right? Because where does the update method live in iced? It lives on the application state. So how about we go app state update like this. And let's move our update method into impl app state and make it text self. And then we've got our mutable self, right? Self. Now, is this going to work? Not quite sure why it's right. We haven't created this yet, so we need to move this here, and we're going to get a problem because this is moved. I suppose the app state could be wrapped in a dynamic, right? Because don't we even do that somewhere else? Not entirely sure. All the things in the app state, can we put all this? Curious. Let's go. Let done app state there's a thought for you. That's fine. We just need to go. We just need to. Do we need to do that? Yeah. Let's take this out of here for a minute and move it somewhere else for a moment. Move this down here. Maybe this, in fact, can actually go here. Yeah, I'm not sure about this. Oh, found a reference to a message. Should we be cloning that, or should we be passing an actual message to it? Let's have a quick look at the iced one to see what this does. So the update here takes an actual message. So messages are supposed to be clonable. then this message is this, and then this is this. Isn't there a for each cloned or something? For each cloned. Yeah, there is. For each cloned. And then you get a message. And then you pass it to it, and away you go. Message clone is not satisfied. That's fine. We can deal with that. And that means that this needs to have clone on it. Borrow views this message. Well, this is. Oh well, this is this one. Okay, so this is this needs to be message.clone. Ah. And then this needs to have a move on it, which is fine. And then we've got this borrow of this. So we're using this app state thing here. Let's pull that out and go done app state lock. Because nothing else is using it at this point. This code is only called when the application is finished. No, this is when it starts up. That's fine. So this DIN app state here needs to be cloned. And then it might shut up. Oh. Let's pull that out here. Put it in a block. And then do it like this, maybe. We got we've got a reference to app state. What's it complaining about there? Oh, okay, that's fine. So, okay. Sure, you know. Oh dear. It's a bit of a faff, but we'll see if we can get there. We're just trying to pull dynamics out of it. Value used have to be a move. What do you mean? How? No, it's just my IDE that's confused, I think. Yeah, my IDE is confused still. So that compiles. Let's just run it just for now, just to make sure we've not broken anything. you know, everything seems fine. Close, and then run it again. Right, so we've got that. So we have the ability to call an update method with a mutable self. So then we can go self dot tab bar lock update message. Let's see where this gets us. Do we need to? Okay, so the method signature is this. Forget about the return values for now. We'll deal with that later. But let's say the tab bar has got an update method on it. Which needs to be public. Right, yes. And the tab bar wants a tab message. Thus. And then we can match on the message. Just like we do in ICE on our tabs module, where we go update. No? Is it this one? Yes, this one. So this is where we could handle updating the dynamic list of the tabs, or not dynamic list of tabs, just the widgets for the tab, right? So we've got a close method that we want to call. Just curious as to how this goes. So here we've got a tab key. So we can delegate this to self.onClose with a tab key. Or let's just go close tab, because it's not on close really. Okay, fine. And self is mutable, so we can do that. And then you see we have, do we not? Where's closed tab? We've got a closed tab already, which takes a mutable self. So we can just call it. Right? But we're not sending the message yet. Let's send the message instead. So what normally happens is that this closed tab method gets called by an on-click handler, right? Here. So instead of locking the tab bar and calling closed tab like this, how about we emit a message? So let's not do that. We do have the tab key in the local state, which we can leverage here. So we can go self, well, I don't know, let's just say message.set with all that. Right, so we need this message. So we go let message is self.message.clone probably, right? Which means we need a message on here, which is going to be a dynamic message. And where's that going to come from? That's going to come from new. Thus. Oh yeah. But we have to clone it. And this new is called from here. Right? And we've got this message and it's here. And we could just slap this up here instead. And then that's a reference to the message here. And now we can send messages. But no. This is not supposed to be taking a message, it's supposed to be taking a tab message. So somehow there needs to be some mapping stuff going on. But dynamic has map. So I think you go map each. Wait a second. This is supposed to be tab message. Yeah. Yeah, this is where that's sort of like, which way are we mapping again now? Okay, I'm getting slightly lost. Foo here, let's see. So foo is this. But where do we do the mapping? I don't think we do the mapping here. Ah, yes, I know, it's fine. Everything's fine. Right. So this is the wrong type of message here. So this is where we do the mapping, and that makes more sense. Right. So let's see if we can work this out. Let's say message.map each here. And let's say tab message. And we wrap it into message tab message without the extra brackets on the end, please. Thank you very much. It's maybe something like this. And then not exactly sure where this is going to go. Self message client. Self message is still tab message in here. Why is it confuzzling? Close button. This is not supposed to be a. Okay, so it needs partial EQ on tab message. Why does it need to compare it? Message.set. Oh, it needs to compare it because when you put something in a dynamic, it needs to go, well, is this different from the last one that was in there? And if it is, then call all the reactive event handlers. So that's one slight difference there. So they need to be comparable, but okay. So that's interesting. That's interesting, but okay. we'll do it. And we get the same problem here. And then we've got some other stuff going on here. Can't compare fun tab message with fun tab message tab message. Not entirely sure I've got this right here. Let's break this out. Why does it think this is a message? Am I getting my mapping the wrong way around here? Probably, because this message is the type. Yeah, because this shouldn't know about the applications message. How's this going to work? What can we do here? I'm kind of... Oh. Why does it? Really? Hold on a second. Yeah. So only if it's one of these. What are we actually supposed to be doing in here? Oh, I see. So if the message that was transmitted is a tab message, then we extract the tab message from it. Yeah, something like this. Otherwise, what can we do here? Is this where we should be calling the update? No. This seems somehow very wrong. This feels like I'm mixing the update method. It feels like I'm going the wrong way around here. Should we be doing map each here? Should I be doing something else? It feels like I should be doing something else. But what? So tab bar needed a dynamic tab message. Does it really need a dynamic tab message? Yeah, because it needs to set this one. Do we have to wrap each of the different types of messages in another dynamic? probably. Let's go to the tab bar. Add none to it. And import default for tab message and make this go none, like that. Let's just see where this takes us. My IDE seems to be very confused. Oh, no it's not. I'm confused. So we've got this tab message, but how can we make this work? Because there's no sort of runtime, as it were. So we have to build this runtime, and is building the runtime involving wrapping all the messages in dynamics. Yeah. How do we make this work? So sure, I've got one of these, and I can pass it into it, right? And then this clones it, so fine. But I've got this tab message, and nothing's going to look at it ever. So somehow we need to go from the dynamic tab message that the tab bar is setting into the message. Oh, I suppose we can do this. Hold on. Let's see what happens if we do this. If we say for each cloned on this again, tab message. Yeah, okay. I think we've got this. We can go. We don't want to match it. We just want to go message dot set tab message. Wait, message tab message. That's what we want to do, right? Is that it? Have we just implemented the runtime? I think we have. Method set not found for this. It's confuzzled. Let's introduce a clone of message. Hey, don't do that. Why is it confused? For each clone. Oh, and then we have to call persist on this. But it's still confused. path statement drops value. Okay, I'm a little bit weirded out by that. Let's move this up. Wait a second. Okay, no. I'll leave that there for the moment. What is it confused about that? Do we just need to import it? Oh, we do. Okay. Non-exhaustive patterns, that's absolutely fine. There, we implemented the runtime. So let's just go back to the on-click handler. Right. So somewhere we created a button, and instead of doing this self-clone, which was horrible, I might add, and let's also see if we can take off the derive clone, in fact, which we can now do. Right, and now all this stuff in here doesn't need to be dynamics, because we've got, hopefully, a system that allows you to close tabs using messages. There, I mixed Elm and Cushy together. You saw it here first. Magic. Does it work? I mean, does it work? Seems to work. There. So that means we could do some refactoring in here and remove all these dynamic madness and see what it looks like with a mixture of Elm and Cushy mixed together. So the key parts to this, just because you might have lost that, because there was quite a lot of flapping about going on, is that the app has a message which wraps other types of messages which belong to the other components that the app uses, right? And then every time it receives a message, it calls an update method with a mutable, which has a mutable self, so it can update the application state instead of having to futz around with dynamics. It can also delegate the messages to other components which have their own types of message, which we did here, right? So that's how it gets the message and goes down to the component, but to go from the component to the app and then back to the component again, like it does in Iced. It has a on-click handler which sends a message that is specific to the type of component that you're creating. So in our case, we've got a tab bar. It's sending tab messages. Right? So it takes the tab message and updates the dynamic tab message. Great. Something needs to listen to that. The thing that needs to listen to that is the main method, as in the thing that created the tab bar. Interestingly, other things could also listen to these same messages, because it's the dynamic one. There's another thought for you. So if you want to log all the tab messages that were ever created, instead of updating the tab bar to write the log method, you could have a new dynamic callback which does the logging of the message. There's an interesting thought for you. Okay, so anyway, so the tab message dynamic gets updated by the on-click handler, right? And then in the main application, for each type of message that you have and that you need to receive inside the app, you have a simple wrapper callback, which is that. And you need one of these for each type of message, which isn't the end of the world. You could even do this with a macro, I imagine. Yeah. And yeah. There's a thought for you. So yeah, we implemented the Elm architecture inside Cushy. Yeah. So what we're going to do is do a commit, but we're going to do a branch before we do a commit. How do we change branches inside the IDE? I don't normally do this. I normally do this in the command line. Okay, do we do new branch? There we go. Tabbed document example with Elm. That's odd. Oh my god, what's it doing now? Abort! I have no idea what happens, what's happening here. Oh god, what's it gonna do with all my code now? No. What even am I looking at here? Why have I got this user interface? What is this? Oh, I should have just continue resolve. I have no idea what is going to happen now. I've got all this useful code and I don't want to lose it. Why does it think? Why? Abort. I want to... That better not lost... Oh my god. Did that seriously just lose all my code then? It did, didn't it? I fucking did. Okay, let's see if we can recover from this somehow. I have no idea what on earth that was. Like, you can create branches. Why? Stupid user interface. Abort. Abort should abort. Okay, fortunately, I can recover all my changes from the local history. If I didn't have this, why is it? Yes, I want all of this. Why has it got all the add tab close handler changes? Okay, fine, look. This is just a nightmare. Why is it got... Oh dear. Gah! Trying to recover my code. I should have just done it on the command line. Son of a bitch. Have we unfudged this? I had changed it to the tab bar where it creates messages, right? Tab message. Okay, doesn't need clone anymore. Interesting. Why has it got this change here? Let's just go, what the fuck? And do a commit so we don't lose all this stuff again. And then somehow work out what the hell went wrong. Make the tool... What on earth has it got that in there? Why? What on earth happened? Did it? No, we should have had... It created the branch from like some random commit which wasn't the head. I have no idea. I'm going to have to replay like this stream and find out what on earth happened there. Because it... Call each... this one, right? This commit was the... Git show this one. That's the last thing we did in the stream, right? Which was where we did this on close stuff. Yeah. So git checkout dash b and then a branch. Git branch tab document example with Elm balked. Bork, bork, bork. Is it the Swedish one like that? Yeah. The Muppets, right? Because we're all Muppets. So we've got that. Then we're going to reset this one to that one. And then git cherry pick the with Elm balked stuff. And it should merge it. But we've got merge conflicts for some reason. And we're going to delve into why that might be. Just madness. All the things on the right. No. This is the new stuff. No, we don't want that. Update open documents. This is the new stuff. Don't want this. What on earth happened here? All the new stuff. Don't want that. Boxed in. Static send. Fun. What's different? The new. Is it? I guess you guys can't quite see everything that's going on the screen here because this thing's a bit big. So we want this. We don't want this because it's stupid. And then let's look at the git history inside here and look at this what the fuck. which should only have the Elm changes in it now. Which appears to be the case, and it should work still. Okay, we're going to open a file and then open another one and make sure closing tabs works. It does. And we're going to open this one and another one. Right, so we've got test 2 and these ones. Right, close that, make sure everything works that we've done today. And then we've got, but they're in a different order here, so we need to fix that. But that's nothing to do with the changes that we made today. Fine. Okay. So we can amend this commit and go example of using Elm in Cushy. Which I don't know whether it's a good idea or not. I honestly don't know whether that's a good idea. I think I'm going to experiment more with that because there is some merit in that. There is some merit in that. History. I'm going to share this with some people that were helping me out in the ICE Discord. Yeah, we'll see what people say. It's interesting, isn't it? So, yeah, we're on the 3-hour mark again. I need a break. I need some food and all the rest of it. So, I think we're going to call it there for today. But that was interesting. We did some stuff. Some progress was made. And we came up with some ideas of mixing what we liked about ICE with what we liked about Cushy. And a way to solve potentially the cloning and 1000 dynamic problem that we have. And introduce some testability. Because now we can manually call the update method and have it update the state and then do assertions on the state. Right? Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So we're going to leave it there. And we're going to pick it up on the next one. So, just remember, folks, it's only software. How hard can it be? We'll find out on the next one. See ya.